Right. So, hello there. Hello, everybody. Hello. Here is Jason from Hellas, and my new motto is "Hello from Hellas, greetings from Greece." So I hope that suits you all. Just to remind you of our beloved Hellas and its beloved democracy in Athens, which is a funny subject these days, democracy and all that republic stuff. So today I have a beloved guest, my dad. I have a man that I'm following for more than a year, honestly. I know, Marty, I found you through, maybe it was James True or Owen Benjamin back in the day when you two hang out. Good times. And, I was listening to you. I was listening to your lectures to the best of my ability. And I found them very interesting. And I always had in mind that someday, I want to interview you, speak with you. So here we are. Thank you for coming on. You are providing great value for anyone looking for numerology, astrology, cosmology, religions, and lots of other things. So thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I really do.
So before we start, why are you in a car, man?
Exactly. That's the first thing. Like, why should I listen to this guy? He's interviewing from a car. So we live out in the sticks, which is an American term. We live in the middle of nowhere. So the closest 5G tower that I can even get signal is probably about 10 miles away. And so we get internet in our house, but it's not enough to stream. It's not barely enough to upload or download. That's really slow. It's almost dial up. So I got to go basically 10 minutes from my house to even do these live streams. So I've been doing church services in my car, and any big uploads I got to drive. So that's just what it is. But that's part of the sacrifice you have to make when you kind of get away from the system a little bit, So, and it's not really a sacrifice. It's actually been, I don't know, as I'm learning, a lot of this stuff is a blessing. Things that you think at once were like, oh, this is going to be a pain in the ass, turns out to be the best, So, yeah.
Oh, man. All right. So you always have a positive answer. Really appreciate it. So before we go on to who you are, before we go into that shortly, I want to reiterate your point about sometimes bad things come to us, even though they seem like a pain in the ass, usually they are a blessing in disguise. I had the same thing, Marty. I was exercising a lot since 2019, and I was going very well with my fitness progress. Excellent. I was putting mass finally in my early 30s. And it was going great. It was excellent, beautiful, the best time in my life, And then came September. And September, I started having heart palpitations, and my cardio respiratory systems went off, almost off. Really, I was sluggish. I couldn't really not exercise, but I couldn't really even walk for a mile. So, I got to the doctors and I got nothing back in return. I just paid them for nothing. Fool me. Yeah, I was a fool. See, I knew what was going to happen, but I went anyways because, because of fear and because I wanted, to have a safe valve just in case to have gone to the doctors. Anyways, this experience it's still going on. It kind of subsided a little bit, but it's still, I'm not exercising anymore. I'm trying to find out a solution anyways. So even though it seems very grim and very bad, and it is in a way, my lifestyle got 180 degrees around. I have to live like an old man right now and figure out the solution. But I'm in the journey right now. I'm in the process of finding something. But, Marty, because of all that stuff, I reconnected with God first, more than I used to be, because I was connected. I was spiritual in a way, somehow. But now I'm like deeply. I'm much more appreciative of of everything that God provides to us, and death also. I appreciate death more. I appreciate life more. And also, I learned how to make sauerkraut, and I indeed do make sauerkraut because of my sickness, Marty. So I always knew how to make sauerkraut. There are myriad of blogs out there, but here I am I'm pissing my pants because of my fear for my heart, and I'm making sauerkraut every day. So yeah, blessing in disguise, man.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's how it works if you're willing to accept it. If you fight that stuff, then it's just a fight. But I've learned over the years, I mean, it's taken me 42 years. It's taken me, to go through some shit in my 20s and 30s and stuff like that, but to sort of come on the other side to realize that a lot of these things that you might think is like, oh, it's the end of the world. Oh, my whole life is crumbling before me. And next thing you know, it's like, no, it was just a different path that you probably needed to be on. I just gave this example yesterday. I was talking to this really good bloke, rebel preacher, as saying, we have this compost toilets. We have an outhouse and we have a compost toilet, and we never really liked this compost toilet, whatever. So we just started using it, and next thing you know, it had a leak in it. So after a few days of using this, there was 2 inches of pee at the bottom of this compost toilet thing that I had to clean up. And so I'm stuffing, wood chips in there to dampen it, and I'm breaking it out, and it stinks and everything, right? And normally I was actually kind of congratulating myself on the progress I'd made, because normally I'd have been bitching up a storm, like, oh, fuck this, I gotta clean up shit and blah, blah, right? But I just kept my calm, and I was like, I just got to do it. I've cleaned up some shit before. Sometimes in life, you got to clean up a little shit. That's just how it works. So I just did it, and got it all working. Then all of a sudden started using it again, did it again. So we figured, I was like, oh, so then I was like, almost had to do the whole thing again. So we hauled the unit out. I'm like, oh, we're done with this. We've got an outside toilet. It's no big deal. Might be a little cold. Oh, well. Hauled this thing out, and it gave us this whole extra room in our place. And we basically spent yesterday just completely, we have a very small place. And so if you get an extra room, it's like, oh shit, this is like gold mine, So because of that, because of basically me having to clean up shit and piss and 2 inches of this thick and, stinking up all day, and it was terrible. It was like a blessing in disguise, because now we got this whole nother room. We don't have to deal with this anymore. It was just, and I wouldn't have thought that 4 years ago. I'd have been bitching up a storm and pissed that I had to clean up this and stuff like that. So there's all these things. Hawaii was another one. When we left, it was like, oh, we still love Hawaii. At some point I would love to go back there if the government isn't so corrupt or whatever. But we built this, homestead. We had chickens, we had bees, we had a farm going, things like that. And because of everything that has happened, we had to get up. We basically had to sell everything and leave so we could still see my family, And at the time, it was very heart-wrenching, because it was like, we loved it so much. But it has been a really blessing in disguise, because we got here and we moved up north here, and we've had unbelievable amounts of peace, quietude. Like I've got my ministry going. I finished my book. None of that stuff I would have been able to do if we would have stayed in Hawaii. So here it was, we had to uproot our entire lives because of tyranny and communism and, flying and all this other stuff, which is heart-wrenching, because we just built the whole thing, spent 2.5 years building it. And we literally within 2 weeks had to just get rid of it all and leave paradise, which was, once again, if I didn't have enough perspective, I'd have been like, oh, screw this. I can't believe they made, that's the thing. But it's been a blessing because of all the things that have happened since then. We've gotten peace, we've gotten quietude, we're not messed with, we don't have to deal with any of the tyranny at all. I got to write my book, I start, that sort of thing. So you just have to take it as it comes and be ready to adapt. That's the big thing. People are like, oh, you moved from Hawaii to northern Wisconsin, it must be. And it's like, no, you just have to suck it up, be a man, and adapt. It's never the end of the world until it's physically your end of the world. And if you live your life right, and you do the right things, and you live virtuously, and you seek the transgressions of sins and all that sort of stuff, then it's not going to be the end at the end. You see? And this is why you are always told, do not fear. Fear not. Don't fear, because fear is all just really a bunch of bullshit. My wife reminded me of it many times, just based, when, I would get hooked on things and start worrying, like into the future of things that hadn't even happened. And she's just looking at me. It's like, you're worried about stuff that hasn't even happened yet, that may never even happen. What are you doing? Think about it logically, And so, yeah. So the blessing in disguise is a real thing.
What is your belief about people that do not want to leave something behind, like you did with Hawaii and your homestead? Why are, as humans, so afraid
Oh God. Well, it's such a multifaceted answer because it really depends. There's so many things that keep a person locked into a bad cycle. And I know this personally because I was locked into a bad cycle with a relationship for almost like 11 years or something like that, where only about 3 of those years were even decent or good. I can tell you from personal experience, why was I stuck in that cycle? Comfortability. I was used to it. I'd known this person for a long time. The fear of the unknown, because at that point I was wrapped up financially in this person. We had the same friends. We hung a lot. Even when I was a young man, we would just what we would do to have fun is we'd go out and get drunk and and we did that together. And so even though there was all this tumultuous part of the relationship, there was still those sort of foundational things. And I was afraid to let those things go because if I figured, well, if I let those go, I wasn't, who was I? What was I going to be? What was I going to do? Was I ever going to find another lady? Is it, blah, 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 which was just fear. That's all it was. That was all fear of things that none of it ever came true. I didn't have to worry about that at all. I found the most amazing woman. My life has been nothing but great. But those 11 years, or say 6 to 7 years, if you will, that was all it was. It was like, I'm not leaving this person because it's just easier to get up and just go to day by day. And okay, I guess we'll fight a little bit and blah, 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 blah. Well, I'll just go and hang out with my friends, or I'll go get drunk, or I'll go whatever it is, unhealthy, completely unhealthy. But you're used to that unhealthy, you know? And so you get stuck in those patterns. And the fear is the big one, because I know that has been my biggest thing that I've had to overcome. Why did I stay in that relationship? Fear of the unknown. What was I going to do without her? When I met my wife, Jennifer, I had a lot of trepidation and fear because she lived in Hawaii and I lived in Oregon, and she was going to come stay with me for a month. And then, if it worked out, basically live with me. And at that point, she almost was kind of skeptical of coming to live with me because I had so much fear. I was like, oh, what if this goes south? What if she's not cool? What if I don't handle this right? Blah, 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 blah. What if? Questioning yourself, questioning your own fortitude, your own strength, the power of God that's within you, constantly questioning that stuff, not in the good way, in the way to say, oh, I can't do it, I'm stuck. I think that's the biggest thing in most people's lives. So.
Yeah, a very interesting answer. I see kind of the same things, Marty. So I think that people get into the habits of things. And my personal belief, and I hope I can be closer to the truth than not, but my personal belief is that we form habits. They are partially spiritual, partially bodily. So physically, it's better for our system, more efficient, less energy to burn, calories to burn, and partially spiritually, like you said. So I think that people, when we live in unnatural environments, we live unnatural situations in our daily lives. Living in an apartment, for example, living with EMF radiation all over the time, cell phone radiation, Wi-Fi, CMFs, 5Gs, 4Gs, 6Gs, whatever. And we go outside to work and we fume, and the air we fume, we get in our lungs is toxic, of course. And then you go to the fucking office, and the office, of course, it's the same, only worse because it's not your home. So you don't love it even a little bit. So, and the people inside are stupid, most of them. And you are wondering why I'm here. And you are in a very strange environment. Your body cannot process it correctly. And thus, I think that your body tries to be as efficient as possible in a very unnatural situation, that it shouldn't be that way. So you don't have really the power to really make conscious changes in your physical environment. And at the same time, of course, the whole environment and the structure of our, very materialistic society, I believe that in a sense doesn't include the spiritual element as a actual, realistic, I would say, element of our health, of our well-being. So we don't grow our spirituality from children. We learn how to be dogmatic. We go to the church, maybe, if we're lucky. And even in the church, we kiss a man's ring, or we pray to some cross that we don't understand what that is. We think that it's a device for torture, which is insane. And if you ask me, you are better equipped to answer these questions, but that's my personal opinion since childhood. So you have the unnatural situation, the physical situation, you have the lack of complete spiritual understanding. And then, yes, you become even more habitual. You have to. You have no other choice in a sense, because you have to burn less calories so that you save the calories to save literally your body from dying. That's my opinion, but might be completely wrong. But I think if we live in a more harmonious environment, sustainable maybe, out in the rural area, along with the community around us, same traditions, same customs, connected to the earth, connected to the animals, learn how to kill animals. So I don't know what you believe. Let us know of your opinion. Let us know of how you became a homesteader. I mean, how did you go to that, and what did you experience from all that? Right? What did you learn?
Well, I mean, to your point, quick though, I mean, I think external realities have a lot to do with it. Like you do, if you're in an environment that's not spiritually healthy, like even if that means your job, you're going to your job in your office and you're not having fulfilling conversations, you always have to put on a mask, right? Not even a physical mask, an actual mask, an image that you have to, you can only say certain things at work and you have to be PC, and Bonnie over here doesn't like this, and Sheila, you can't say anything to her about trans this or that, or she'll get offended and go talk to CEO Bob or whatever. It's a completely unhealthy environment. And obviously that is going to affect you, right? So there's no question about that. 5G, that sort of stuff. But ultimately, you are in control of your internal environment though. Right. And when you get in control of that and really understand self-empowerment, which comes from God, your true self-empowerment, true light work comes from God. When you realize that that's within you, then when you change that and start to change that, then it should reflect, as I've come to understand, reflect in your outer environment. And I've watched myself go through that, where it was like I had those fears and I shed them, and I was like, no, no, no. And then that opened doors, and I had the strength and the gusto and the gumption and the fortitude to walk through those fucking doors, right? And so, and break out of those patterns and things like that. So first it starts here in the internal of changing that, and focus on that and be like, yes, I can do it. Yes, I have strength, all of that. And then I think if you start on that path, then your external reality will start to match. And that's what has happened to me. Like I didn't, there was a point, before I had our place in Hawaii, if you would have told me 4 years before that, you're going to meet this German woman and you're going to go and live and poop in a bucket in Hawaii with a bunch of chickens. Yeah, I'd been like, what are you talking about? But it was really a dream come true. The other thing that people get stuck in too is the images of themselves. They think that, and I did this too. Oh no, I'm from Wisconsin. I'm the beer drinking, beer swilling guitar player that, that sort of thing. And it was like, okay, well, no, that was just something that I sort of grafted onto my personality because of geography or who I was growing up in high school or the people I was surrounded by, that I thought that was me. And so I got stuck. It was like almost anchored me to all of these things. And you realize that if you cut those, you cut those ties that are unhealthy, that tether you to things, you're basically tethered to a less evolved or less brilliant version of yourself, because you're not letting your true self shine through. And so that's the lessons I've learned over the years. And what I've come to understand is, when you actually understand who your true self is, that's divine. And so the notion that anybody could tell you anything else, like, oh, you can't do that, or you're not going to do this, or no, you're not going to be able to, it's like, no, that strength is within you. And so, and that's what I've experienced. So I don't even know what we were talking about, but
Yeah. Oh, no worries. That's
we'd
that
have some
that's
stuff about off grid and stuff. I don't know, but anyway, it's all good.
yes, but
As long as the conversation flows, right?
yeah. As long as we go to the mountain, the path is irrelevant. So
That's right. No.
oh man. Before I ask about the homesteading in Hawaii and your actual experience, of the chickens and all that stuff, let me ask you, you said about cutting ties. So I'm always wondering, are these tendencies that we have as humans, are these tendencies healthy? So is there any value to be tied to a place, maybe that if that place was healthy, would be that a valuable thing to have, to be inclined to be tied to your, personality, to your identity, to your neighbors, to whatever. Do you think that it could be a positive thing in a scenario where people around you all over the country would be more enlightened? Would be that a positive maybe or not? Or do you believe that we shouldn't, be?
No, when I mean ties to faulty realities, ties relationships with people that are not true, meaning that they're not honest, they're not genuine, that sort of thing. Paths that you go down where you feel like you're tethered to those things. Community, friendship, camaraderie, all of those things are insanely important, of course. So that way, in that sense, you are tied to those people, but you want to be tied or tethered to people that you actually have, things in common with, you have similar goals with, and so that informing community is, I think, what we all want to do. I think that's one of the things that all of us have been lacking in life growing up, is that we wanted a like-minded group of people around us to not live in despair and give hope and give encouragement and be like, no, you can do it, that sort of thing. I think one of the big things that human beings, especially men, are missing in their world is really sort of rites of passage. And that's a rites of passage where you become, whether it's 13, 14, 15, 16, even to 18 or whatever, that whole time period where you're no longer a child, you're no longer playing with toys or whatever it is you're doing. Now you're a man. And now you're going to act like a man. You're going to take responsibility. You're going to take responsibility for yourself. You're going to protect your wife. You're going to be upstanding into the community, and you're going to go out and give to the community. And that's what a true man does. And there's not that thing in our society that takes that, man, because I needed it. I'm sure you did too. Everyone I've spoken to essentially needed it, where it was like, hey, you're no longer playing in the playpen. You're no longer in the sandbox. Now you're this other thing. And men don't have that. And I think our society, because it's so twisted and sick and psychopathic and stuff, they're trying to keep people in a childish state, where children are raising children. And so all of those things we really need back in our society. And I call it the resacralization of Earth. That's really what our generation is tasked to do, is resacralizing things. Manhood is divine. There's something absolutely awesome, sacred about being a man, standing in manhood. And that's been, of course, once again, whittled away in our society. Toxic masculinity, this or that. It's like, no, you need us. Trust me.
Yes, and my personal experience basically with toxic masculinity and all this stuff. I grew up, in a household, and that was closer to toxic masculinity than toxic femininity. That maybe, feminism. Sorry. So I kind of got some aspect of being more masculine in some sense. For example, when I was learning how to swim, my father took me and he threw me to the water to drown. And then I didn't drown, and I woke up, and my father teach me a lesson. You are not going to drown in life, you are going to be just fine, rely on your strengths. Or at some point he tried to teach us German, because I was living in Germany for 6 years, where 2000 to 2006 I was in Munich. So we were ready to go to travel to Germany for 6 years, and I was afraid, I was frightened, I didn't know the language. And my father found an ingenious way to teach us, again, with cards and with being I have two brothers, so he made us to be competitive to each other with playing a board game with German words and all that stuff. And because of the competition between males, friendly competition, but competition nevertheless, we all got better into learning German. So these things, they got ingrained. My father didn't do anything well, of course. He didn't teach us how to, go and hunt, go and farm, or maybe martial arts, nothing of the sorts, go fishing, nothing of the sort, sadly. But he did some lessons. And growing up, now in my early 30s, growing up in my 20s, I got really not flabbergasted, but I got really amazed by all the beta males and the soy boys that I found. And when I was meeting foreign people and adolescents from the capital here, coming back from Munich and coming back from the rural areas, because I wasn't grown up in a big city. I was in a small city of 10,000 people. So I was used to more free roaming with my bicycle, walking on my own, taking rides on my own with my friends, missing classes from the school to go and play, to go and flirt with girls when we were like 10 years old or something. So I learned that when now I'm seeing all these young males, 14, 15, 16, 17, and up to 25 and more, they are sitting with the girls and they're wearing double masks and the girl is wearing no mask. And doesn't make any sense, Marty. How can be the
Just sort
male?
of grab like, what?
Yes. I had that exactly idea
Oh,
the
I
other
know.
day.
I've been there. Yeah.
Should I do that really? What's your opinion? Should I go and grab young men and tell them, dude, you have to let go?
Well, I don't know. There's a time and place for that for sure. I mean, the good thing to hear is that, like me, I had a strong male, I had a father that was at home that took care of things. And that is so important in a man's life. And I mean, I don't know. I don't want to say this as like a blanket statement or an umbrella statement or anything like that. But I really don't think that you can grow up and be a healthy man if you don't have that in your household, or it's going to be a big struggle. Like, yeah, my dad didn't teach us necessarily how to hunt, or he didn't teach, we grew up in town. We didn't grow up on a farm. So I didn't learn a lot of that stuff, but I still had that very strong male role model as my father. And to not have that in families is it's just destruction. It just is. It's so unhealthy. And that said, as far as like, well, we have to be role models as men. So, and we falter, we fail, we're sinners in that sort of sense. Everybody screws up, everybody has regrets in their life, things that they go down the wrong path, and that sort of thing. So you have to own up to those things. But yeah, there's many times where it's like you do have to just get to the kid and be like, hey, knock it the fuck off. Because that's what you needed when you were a kid. That's exactly what you needed when you were doing something stupid, or you were listening, especially these children now are listening to the news and getting their heads just full of nonsense. And then their parents are listening to the news. I don't think there's anything wrong with coming around and saying like, yeah, take that freaking mask off. Not helping anything. You might reach them. You might, it's a little different story when you're talking to older people, because a lot of those people are set in their ways with their belief systems and stuff. And you're not going to wake those people. You're just not, you've had the experience to try to wake somebody that's in the narrative, and you just got to let them go. And, you can stand up and speak truth and that sort of stuff, but you can't force them to listen. So, but children, when they see a strong man, role model, that sort of thing, they feed off, I started smoking because my dad smoked. I can tell you that, right? And you watch what the elders do as a child and you mimic it. That's what you do. And so if you can be the strong man and just let them know, of course, you got to do it tactfully. You got to do it with the right language. You can't, you got to make sure your anger's in control, which I've had issues with. But, it comes down to the question is like, well, is it okay to speak truth to the children? Absolutely it is. Absolutely it is. And it's necessary to. So, especially nowadays when they're fed so much garbage.
Right.
Be a man, speak truth.
All right. So it's your fault. No, tomorrow I'm going outside, I'm going to take a hike near the high school.
Marty made me do.
Yes. So, all right. So tell us, before we go to the Gnostic church and your book, tell us a little bit about how was the process when you started your homesteading in Hawaii. So what were you before and how do you decide it? And most importantly, how did you took the first steps, man? I mean, what did you do first? What did you do? Animals, plants, whatever.
Okay, well, so I had been working basically a 40-hour week job, paycheck to paycheck kind of thing for I don't know how many years. And I knew deep down inside I didn't want to do that forever, and so it got to a point where basically maybe a few years before I met my wife, I was really getting tired of the rat race. And I was only 30 years old, whatever it was when I met my wife. I was still fairly young. I was tired of that. I was like, I don't want to live like this. I don't care. I don't want to have a mortgage. I don't want to, have to go to work every day and then 40 hours a week and giving up all my paycheck, all that sort of stuff. So one of those blessings, I guess, I met my wife, and she was already living in sort of like this one room shack off grid in Hawaii, basically just renting a room, but they were off grid. And so she had dealt with the compost toilet and solar and getting water and purifying water, all that sort of stuff. And so when we met, she moved over to Oregon, and we spent a year or two not really caring about where we lived and stuff. We were just getting to know each other and falling in love, and which was an amazing thing. And then, yeah, basically she at some point was just kind of like, let's get out of here. Let's go to Hawaii. Let's go live off grid and stuff. And it was always something I wanted to do, like to be, off the grid, away from the man, away from the machinery of society and stuff. I always had that sort of want or desire. And so, yeah, we moved over. We just dropped everything, sold everything, moved to Hawaii on a whim. And, she knew some people over there or whatever. So we, had somebody to stay with, but we didn't know where we were going to live, where we were going to work, all this other stuff. And as I came to find, it can be quite difficult as a haole to find work over there as a quote unquote white man. So we were looking around. We didn't have much money to work with, and we didn't really want to get involved with a bank either. So we were basically looking for anything we could afford. And we found this one piece of property it was under 90,000. And so we had a little bit of money, and then they basically financed the rest through them, the people that were actually selling it. So we didn't have to go through a bank or anything. And then from there, it was blood, sweat, and tears. I had to cut down the entire jungle. I had to build. I had to, we had to clear the land. I had to build fencing. I had to build a couple chicken coops, had to figure out all the solar myself, had to set up a compost toilet, because when we bought a place, they were literally just shitting in the jungle. So I ended up building all that and stuff. And it was just I was like, I'd rather do this than get stuck 40 hours a week at a job. I would rather do this and clean up my own shit than, deal with, once again, CEO Bob, who's a dickhead, and I have to go and be PC around Sheila, who's all whatever, right? You get what I'm saying? And so it was just, the more and more we got into it, it was like, this is freedom. This is true freedom, because we're not shackled to a job where it's like, it's paycheck to paycheck and et cetera, And so learning as I went too, because a lot of the stuff I didn't know how to do. I had some skills as far as like carpentry skills, because I'd done that sort of thing. I'd helped build houses and frame houses, and I worked in the sign business, so I knew how to run basic tools. And my dad actually taught me a lot of that stuff as I was younger. So I had that, which was great. But yeah, it was learning and being willing to learn, and also putting yourself where you're sort of feet to the fire, thrown to the wolves. You just, like your dad did, just throw you in the pool. Oh, I'm gonna drown. No, you're not. Just fucking swim. Sometimes you just got to get thrown in the pool and you got to swim. And there was definitely some frustrations, don't get me wrong, and definitely some hard work, but the payoff is tremendous. And it was. So
was there any pride involved in all your construction work? I've heard people, I'm not still yet there, I'm not still yet in my own, building my own stuff, but I've heard from my grandfathers, because they all built their own homes, which is ridiculous in our day, building your own home. What? And it was always something that I, as a grandson, I was always amazed and very proud of my grandfathers for going into a stone building of wood and stone and beautiful, all the things, and everything there was built by them.
Yeah.
What an amazing feeling I felt. Did you feel the same with your own, maybe at some point?
This is what's missing in our society too, like pride and gratification in the things you do. And it's not prideful to be like, I'm better than everybody or thing. It's like, no, you take pride in your work, and there's an unbelievable gratification. I mean, and the food sense, right? Like raising your own chickens and, growing your own pineapples and your own tomatoes and your own peppers and your own bananas. The food aspect is like, do you have any idea how much better that food tastes? I mean, I said this, and I'm not exaggerating at all. I felt like I'd never eaten a banana before until I had bananas in Hawaii. I'd never tasted a pineapple so freaking fresh. The eggs I'd been eating, the white eggs that we just used to get at the supermarket that my mom would always get, those taste like dog shit compared to a fresh egg. we had what is it called? A breadfruit tree. So we would have fresh eggs and fresh breadfruit, breadfruit pancakes, breadfruit, that sort of stuff, every morning. Is that literally growing right from and the gratification in that is amazing, Yeah, there's the pride put into what you do in your work has been sucked out of our society. And once again, that's our job, is to put it back in, resacralize it. One of the biggest bitches I always had with working was a bunch of places. Why I always sort of excelled into management positions or whatever is that I took pride in what I did. Like if I was going to do something, I wasn't just going to half-ass it, and so my employers saw that and they're like, oh, that's lacking in pretty much everybody else, and it's true. And so when we just, in fact, sorry, I don't mean to rant here or anything, but we just went to this, a couple new friends of ours, Marlene and Gary, and he said the same thing. I went to their house. I was like, oh, you guys got a beautiful place here. And it's like, yeah, well, we've been here 30 years. And yeah, me and my brother built this house. My brother-in-law built this house, and you hear that and you're like, and then you look at the house. It's like, this is a beautiful place. That takes time, patience, work. Chances are he was building his house after he went to work for 8 hours a day. When you see that you should take pride in those things. It's a beautiful thing. And what needs to be reinstilled in people is that there is this unbelievable gratification of starting out with nothing and building something beautiful. Just like a songwriter, there's unbelievable gratification where you sit down one day and you got nothing. You don't have a riff, you don't have an idea, you don't have any lyrics. And next thing you know, at the end of the day, you just created something out of nothing and it's awesome and you can share it with people. And there's a huge gratification and it's immaterial. It's a spiritual gratification. Yes, you can get to live in the house and that's a wonderful thing and stay warm, but there's something else there, right? And that's what it's all about.
I just forgot that you are also a musician. Besides a farmer, a teacher, whatever. Jesus Christ, Marty, you made us look like fools. So tell us.
It's not my intention, I swear.
Yeah, but you succeeded. So fuck the intentions here. So tell us about the music and your books.
Well, I mean, the music is just something I do at home. I mean, I played in bands for years and things like that, but music has been just a huge part of my life for a very long time. And I've always tried to hone my craft, which was songwriting. And I always enjoyed that because of that, what we just talked about. You get up, one day and you don't have anything. And next thing you know, it's like, damn, now I got this chorus I can sing. And that is really gratifying and fun. And it's such an emotional and spiritual and creative release. So I focused on that for many, many years. Like I said, played in bands. And then the books and things like that just came from years of searching, exploring, seeking, just trying to find answers and genuine answers, being sort of a kind of like a hellishly bombastic kid, just a kind of a shit kicker, rebellious little shit. I never accepted what people told me because it never made any sense. And so that led down a path of actually trying to find the answers. So the books ended up being this sort of me openly and vulnerably on the path, just being like, all right, this is what I came up with. This is, I'm going to write this down. I'm going to do a little exploring, and be like, hey, what do you guys think? And then presenting that to the public sphere, and then finally that culminated. And the last book that's this, Lord Jesus Christ, which is about 600 pages, a book on the mysteries, understanding what's understood esoterically as the mysteries through Christ. So that's been my trajectory as a writer. I didn't even realize, I mean, I always wrote, and so I was interested in writing, but I had no idea I'd be an author. And then one book led to another, and that led to another. And once again, I just kept at it. And that process has been unbelievably gratifying, save for any money I've made off it or anything like that, which, by the way, hasn't been much over the years at all. But it's been unbelievably gratifying in a spiritual way. So
I've seen other artists of great people and really great, honest people that struggle. And I try to understand why. What is the core reason of this? Do you have any answer about these ideas?
Well, I can tell you from my experience, like one of the reasons, I've always had an aversion to money. Not an aversion, not that, because everybody likes money. Who doesn't like money, right? If somebody gave you $100 right now, I'd be like, I got $100. But as far as like seeking it out as that was the end, because you were taught, at least I was taught so much in our society that like, that's the goal. He with the most toys wins. That was literally a phrase in the 80s that they would say, it was like completely materialistic. Like, oh, you got to have a nice house and nice cars and blah, blah, blah. Right. And so that, as a young man, I always had an aversion to that, because I saw, I mean, just flat out, I saw so many of those people and they were completely unhappy. You'll see people that are loaded and they're lying to themselves. They're not genuine. They don't laugh, blah, 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 blah. You can go down that road. So there was a certain aversion there. Then I think with a level of ego dissolution, there comes a thing where it's kind of like, if you ask for money and stuff like that, it's almost like a placation of the ego or something like that, or it's viewed that way. Not saying that that's necessarily true, because I don't think there's anything wrong with asking for money, or if you provide a service to be paid for it. That's an exchange of goods and services. That's an exchange of energy. I can't, as a person here, I can't just be giving out my energy all the time. I wouldn't have any energy left. And in one sense, money is energy, because yes, if I do have money, that means I don't have to go out and work 40 hours a week, so that I can pay for the time so that I can do this. So I think artists in general, when there's a little bit of like I said, like letting go of the ego, I think when it comes to then being a hype man for yourself or promotion of yourself, I find it's a little gross. Like, I'm terrible at it. I'm really, really bad at promoting myself. Then you just get artists, I'll say this, they're just weirdos. They're just so into, whether it's a musician or whatever, but they're so into what they're doing that the other aspects of their life just kind of go to shit. And one of those is self-promotion. A lot of times those are personal relationships with women or men, like family, that sort of stuff. That just kind of goes by the wayside. So there might be a little bit of that happening there too. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
it's an ongoing question, and probably an ongoing answer that we're going to dive into over the next years.
Because if you give me insights, let me know, because I need to do more promotion, because apparently I need a hype man.
If I find anything, I'll tell you. I'll let you know. So let us know, since we are running out of time. Let us know if, where people can find you this time around and buy your books.
Okay, well, MartyLeeds33.com is the website, and it just recently switched over to GnosticAcademy.org. So if you go to Marty Leeds 33, it'll shoot you over to GnosticAcademy.org. That just happened essentially last night. So we're still working out some kinks and some bugs and all that sort of stuff. It's a big project, but so GnosticAcademy.org is the website, and you can get all the podcasts there. So I just finished up basically a podcast I did for, I don't know how many years. 7 years or something. The Marty Leeds Mathematical Radio Hour. I've stopped that podcast. And now we're moved on to the Gnostic Church and Academy of Lord Jesus Christ. And that's what we're doing moving forward. So you can get both podcasts at my site, GnosticAcademy.org. You can get all the books there. You can get all my music there. If you become a member, you can download all the music. You can read all the books. You can download all the videos. And then there's not only the podcast, but all the video podcasts that I've done, all the videos that I've done. I did 8 documentary films. So those are all there to watch. So, I mean, it's literally my life's work for $5 a month if you want. So, and I'm trying to keep it as cheap as possible so you can get the most bang for your buck. As I know, as you're saying, lots of people struggle with money. I get it. And if anybody needs anything that they are struggling and they still want to have access to the site, email me, because we'll work with you in that too. If we just let people in and given free accounts or whatever, because we understand. But yeah, that's essentially what I do. And then we've just started, I'm only on my 3rd one this Sunday, I guess, but live streams every Sunday. So we're doing Sunday morning service. And that's literally, right now we're focused a lot on the Bible, but we'll be covering lots of other subjects, lots of other religions, books, that sort of thing. Right now we're really focused on the Bible, but every Sunday at 9 o'clock Central Standard Time, 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, at my site, Gnostic Church, Gnostic Academy, I got to get it right, GnosticAcademy.org, or on Marty Leeds Live on YouTube, which is also called the Gnostic Church and Academy of Lord Jesus Christ. And that is, I will say this, it's probably, it's like a truth seekers church. It's really what it is. It's a truth seekers church. It's kind of people that are tired of the old rigmarole down at the church at 5th and Vermouth, tired of that whole thing, and you want a fresh perspective and you want real teaching. That's what we do. If you haven't read any book, I would highly just recommend just picking up the latest book, because it's definitely the best work I've done thus far. And it's really a book for the advanced as well as the layman or the introductory rookie kind of person. and it's really deals with the esoteric, the mystical, and what I call, what's called the mysteries. And so, I would say if you're going to read one book and you really want a book that is going to give you a lot of information, present you with a lot of topics and things that are insanely interesting that you might not have a foothold in, this is definitely the way to go. And I'm not just doing this as a book promotion. Like I said, if you want to go to the site, $5 a month, you can cancel the membership right after that. And for $5, you can literally read, 7 books and have access all month, and you can read it there. And like I said, if anybody has any issues or whatever, you don't have any money and you need access, and you really just let me know. So we work with you. But okay, that's all.
And yeah, goodbye, man. Goodbye to you, Marty. See you in a minute. And everybody else, go subscribe to the channel and like and support the work, because we're not getting paid and we are lame to self-promote ourselves. So give us a hand here. Ciao, ciao, everybody.
All right, thanks.
Yeah.